Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here, and today I want to talk to you about some more books that I have been reading. I've read a few books since I last did an update, and I'm well on the way to completing my TBR for the month. However, it's not been easy. This month has been a bit of a struggle for me. I have really struggled to pick up books. I've wanted to do other things. We're going to Disney in Easter and I've been quite excited about the build up to that now. So I've been watching a lot of Disney vlogs and I've been looking for things to wear to Disney and things to do, and we've been planning all our fast passes because we can book them soon, and I've just been getting really stuck into that, and so of an evening I haven't really wanted to pick up a book, and there's not been a book that's really sort of grabbed me and gripped me enough, so I have sort of chopped and changed between some books. And yeah, I don't know, I'm feeling like reading at the moment is become a little bit sloggy for me, so I'm hoping that if I start to mood read a little bit more for the last week of the month, that I'm going to sort of pick up a bit more and I'm going to be feeling the books. I'm going to see how it goes in that way. I like setting my TBRs for the month. I think it's nice to have things to tick off, and that does really suit me as a person. But I think it's important to be adaptable. So I have changed books in and out of the TBR to fit with the prompts that I've set myself and to fit the different challenges. So there's that. I'm adapting, and I think that's important. I don't want to be too rigid. Anyway, on to the books that I've read, because that's the important thing you want to know about. I picked up Deep Light by Frances Hardinge recently. As I said, I've been feeling a little bit slumpy, and I was doing a buddy read with somebody and we were both reading Cantoras, and I think that is going to be an amazing book, but it just wasn't the right time for it, and I didn't want to end up DNFing it, so I only read sort of the first maybe 15 pages, and I knew just like the rhythm and the writing of the story was going to be a much slower, thought-provoking read, and so I put that one down because I do want to pick it up, so I don't want to sort of spoil it and DNF it for the future. So I ended up picking up this one with the person instead, and this one has just been calling to me. I had it on my shelf and I kept looking at it, and then a teacher that I work with at work, who is a reader but not necessarily an avid reader, said how much they were loving this book. She was telling the children about it at school, and I just thought, yes, now is the time to pick this one up. And I wasn't disappointed actually. This one really got me gripped and got me wanting to read. I listened to this one on audio whilst following along with the book, and I really enjoy reading like that. That's become my preferential reading taste, which is a bit annoying because often it means I end up buying the book twice, but at the moment is my preferential reading. I like to have one physical audiobook on the go at the same time and then one physical book on its own, and that seems to be working for me. So this story is about Hark and Jelt. Hark is our main character, and at the start of the story he is arrested and he is put into sort of like a community service. He's indentured to this place called the Sanctuary that has all of these priests from the olden days who are getting old, they're getting a bit senile, but he's there to sort of spy on them and try and find out their stories, because in this place that they live, it used to be surrounded by these gods, these undersea monstery gods that would hurt people, eat people, fight each other, and they were sort of the all-powerful and controlled the seas. And when you live on an island, I think that's probably quite a big deal trying to get past these things. You know, you are isolated, and these were the creatures and the beings that they worshipped, and they couldn't speak, but they did find ways to communicate in different ways. And everyone since then, since these gods have disappeared and sort of died out, everyone goes down to sort of try and salvage bits of them, to try and get bits of them, because they have amazing properties. Super technological advances can be made with a bit of the leg of one of them, and so there's this big market in going down scuba diving, going in submarines to try and pick up these bits. And there's sort of a mystical element to the sea as well. There's this sort of underwater, which is under the regular water, which is strange and has different sort of properties to normal water, which you find out about, so I don't want to talk too much. But the basic idea here is that Hark and Jelt have been friends. Something is set in motion, and Hark has to rescue his friend, and this then leads to lots of different things. There's adventure, there's mystery, there's an amazing world that Frances has created that is so original and unique and different that it's just so interesting. I found this book as well, I'm a scaredy cat, so I don't really read horror and things like that, but I found this really atmospheric. I felt quite tense and quite scared at times, and it really got my heart pumping and made me nervous, and some of the things that you meet in this did make me a bit creeped out. I just thought it was really good. It didn't quite hit the 5-star mark for me. There was bits of it that I wasn't sure I understood well enough and hadn't sort of been explained or shown enough in the story, but this was a real solid 4 stars, and definitely means I'll be pushing on and reading some more of Frances Hardinge's work, because I haven't read, I read The Lie Tree a long time ago and it actually wasn't for me. I know a lot of people loved it and that was her sort of award-winning book, but this one I liked much more, and I do have A Face Like Glass on my shelf by her, so I think I'm going to try that one next. Maybe give it a little while, because I don't like to read back to back for certain authors, but I would definitely recommend this one, and I give it 4 stars. Okay, the next book I want to talk about is this Lullaby by Sarah Dessen. If you watched my TBR for the month, you'll know that I was looking to read some Sarah books on my shelf by authors with the name Sarah. So this was one of them. I've had this on my shelf for ages. It's quite a old book now. Sarah Dessen isn't an author that was really well known to me. I wasn't of the right age when she started writing and became really popular, so I don't believe actually that I've read any of her other books, so this was my first sort of foray into Sarah's books. And I was pleasantly surprised from the look of the front, from the description, from the sort of idea of where she writes, and that she's sort of this more contemporary romance style. I was expecting something very light and very fluffy, and there was much more to this than that. It wasn't simply a throwaway book, and for that reason it really did slow me down in the reading. It was one of those ones that I took my time with, and I did really enjoy it, but there was a lot to take in, and it was quite heavy in the end. The story's following our main character Remy, and she doesn't believe in love. Her father died when she was younger. He was a musician, and he'd written this lullaby rock song for her, which she hates and can't listen to, and has the line that he would let her down in it. And since her father's death, her mother has gone through a string of men. She's a serial dater and marrier. She has had 4 weddings, and Remy's now coming up to 18 or 18, she might be 17, and she is organising at the beginning of this story her mother's like 4th wedding to a man who runs a car dealership. And her brother have grown up in this sort of slightly dysfunctional household. Her mother is a author of romance books, and so sometimes sort of locks herself away to type for weeks on end until she's written a book. And her brother is a little bit older, and he had problems when he was younger. He was a bit of a sort of delinquent, and he's now straightened himself out. But something that Remy can't do is she can't form lasting relationships with men. She is protecting herself all the time. She gets into relationships, but she knows they have a shelf life. She doesn't see past the end of them. She never lets herself fall in love or really care about anyone, which is a shame, because actually she has some amazing best friends. There's 3 other friends, there's 4 of them in total, and they have an amazing and really strong supportive relationship, and that really shows that she can let people in. And I really loved to see that friendship between the 4, and you did get to know the 4 characters, albeit in a smaller sense. They really were sort of side characters to Remy, which was a shame, because there was a lot more to discover and develop within those. I feel like some of them could have had their own storylines, and perhaps would have been a good sort of idea for a series or continuing books. But the main crux of this is that at the beginning of the book, Remy meets a musician, she's not looking for love, she's going off to college, she's going to Stanford, and so she's looking for more of a summer fling or something she knows will end in the summer. And she starts to discover in this book more about herself. But it isn't just a case of boy meets girl and he teaches her how to love. There's much more in here. It's much more nuanced than that. It's much more of a journey, and I really appreciated it for that. I can't remember if I gave this one, I think I gave this one 3 stars. It was good, but it's not one that I would rave about in terms of the writing style. I did find that sometimes I was a bit like, oh, this has got a bit slow in the middle, and I had to sort of force myself to pick it up and read it. But there were parts that were brilliant, so it was a bit of an up and down journey for me, but I ended up giving this one 3 stars, I believe. The next book really came as a shock. I was very kindly sent this one by the publishers, and it is The Life-Changing Manga of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo, illustrated by Yuko Uramoto. Now, I've never read any of Marie Kondo's, or is it Marie Kondo's? Marie Kondo's books, and I knew that I wasn't going to read her main book. But I thought that the manga style, would be a quick read, and if I'm honest, I thought it was something that I would read and kind of make fun of and poke holes in, because I just found it a little bit, I don't want to say gimmicky, but a little bit spiritual. I don't know. It just felt a bit hokey, picking up a thing and seeing if it gave you the like tingles and made you spark joy. And there's a lot of different things in here, but what I came out of this with, and I have to say, after I read the bit about books, no joke, I went to my non-fiction shelf and my books that I've read shelf, because I only keep, if you didn't know this, I only keep graphic novels maybe 4 stars or above, but other books I only keep them if they're 5 stars. And it was starting to get a bit jumbled up there. There was quite a lot on there over the years it's built up, and I was like, I'm not rereading, I don't reread books, why am I keeping those even though they're 5 stars? Why am I keeping them? You know, I can still recommend to people, I can still enjoy the thoughts that came behind them, but why am I keeping them if I'm never going to reread them? They're just going to sit there and just build up dust when someone else could be enjoying them. And so I went through them and I whittled it down, and I've now single stacked those shelves, and they look great, and it make me feel good, and I love looking at them. So yes, after that happened, I was like, maybe there is something in here. I'm not particularly messy, but I am not particularly tidy. We are in between. I leave my house for a few weeks until it gets to a stage where I can't cope, and then I have a big tidy and clean. So I'm not very good at that cleaning as I go along. Well, I do clean a little bit, but I'm more of a tidy as I go along rather than sort of cleaning and keeping it in a space that feels good. So I definitely think there's lots of lessons in here for me to learn about how to make my house feel less cluttered and feel better, and to clear out. And there's pockets of it. There's a space over there in the corner where there's quite a few things stacked. Don't think I need them, so I'm going to have to go through that at some point. But there's definitely room for improvement. And I really liked how this goes in stages. I liked following this particular person on their journey, because this is almost like a story of somebody going through this tidying process, and you know, someone who's in the worst possible situation, and it just goes through, like, this first chapter is deciding to tidy up, and then it's talking about you know, visualizing what you want your house or your place or your area in whatever room to look like. And I think definitely for my book room, that's something that I can visualize. I know what I want it to look like, and it's not there yet. Partly I am hindered by the fact I've got these 2 huge sofas in here from when it was a lounge, and I don't want them, but I cannot get them down the stairs. I can get them over my balcony, but then what am I going to do with them? I'm in the middle of a terrace, so they have to be then carried over gardens, and it just feels like a lot of hard work. I mean, it's going to come to the stage where I really just will be like, right, let's just do it. But for now, I've got those, but I would much rather 2 more comfy, like, easy resting chairs, because often it's just me and maybe my husband occasionally in here. But normally if we're doing stuff together, we're downstairs. My daughter sometimes sits with me, but she can sit on my lap, she can still sit next to me. If I had a couple of easier sort of chairs, like a wingback chair. So anyway, I have I have visualized what I want the space like, and now I just need to get there. So this has its merits, and I did really enjoy it. It's going to go on my shelf because I think it's one that I might revisit, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's not, I don't think it's all a big con, and I do think that there is definitely something in this idea. I mean, there must be. How many people have done it and found it cathartic? And I think if nothing else, it's a kick up the bum to get the ball rolling. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And then the final book that I want to talk about is another Sarah book, and this one is Sarah Ockler's Bittersweet. I saw this on someone's channel around Christmas time. Bookables, Heather from Bookables channel, and she talked about what a good book this was. She said, you know, it's not specifically Christmassy and romantic, but it is set at Christmas time, and it's got this sort of frosting cover, which is a bit like snowflakes. This is, again, not a light contemporary. This is got lots of depth to it. Our main character Hudson, at the start we see her, she's about to participate. She's quite young at the time, maybe 10 or 11, I'm not sure. She is participating in a skating competition, an ice skating competition. She is sort of an ice skating savant. She is tipped for great things in Olympics and all sorts of things, and her mother and father are driving her to this big important skating meet, and it turns out that her father has been having an affair. Hudson had found this bra, given it to her mum. It wasn't her mum's, and so she throws this skating competition because she is angry and confused, and she hasn't had time to process. It's literally just happened the minute they've walked out the door, like just before they walked out the door to go to this competition. And we see this, and then we skip years later. Her mother owns a diner. She's working for her mother in the diner. She's got a real talent for creating amazing and interesting cupcakes, so that's really helping to keep the diner afloat. It's a struggle to make ends meet. The father is left. They don't have much contact with him, and there's her mother and her younger brother, who is really into science and a bit of a genius, but also just a young boy. And it's following Hudson making decisions about her life, decisions about friendship, decisions about relationships, decisions about her future and what she wants, and trying to release some of those bad memories that are caught up with something that perhaps she feels quite passionate about, as well as this feeling of expectation and what you're expected to do as a daughter, and what she feels like she needs to do to help her mother and to keep her mother's dream alive, which has always been owning this diner, but the diner is in trouble, and how can it's really good. There is a romance in there. She's called upon or asked to help the school ice hockey team to become better using some of her more figure skating moves, and to try and help them. So there's sort of a story under there, and new friendships and romance and stuff that happens under there. But there's just so much to this, and Hudson's a really well formed and really interesting character, and I really did enjoy reading this one, and I just thought it was a really good book. Again, it was more of a slow read because it wasn't your sort of bang bang bang. There was a lot more emotions and character growth going on in this. But if you're looking for a YA contemporary with a bit more to it, and not just focused on the romantic element, then I think this one's really worth it. And I think I gave this one 4 stars. I've read some really good books actually, and talking about them now, see, this is why I need to make talking videos about my books. I can't call them vlogs because I don't really take you anywhere. I just switch the camera on when I've finished a book, but it really does make all the difference, because I've stood here this morning thinking, oh, I'm gonna talk about these books, and I'm not going to feel very enthusiastic, and I'm not going to remember what they were about, and I'm not going to be able to like tell people. And actually, talking about them now, I really enjoyed these books, so it's worth switching off on that camera straight after I've read something, I think. So I may do that more in the future. Anyway, here are some books that I've read. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I've read 2 Sarah books. I was aiming for 5. I'm not going to push myself. I'm going to see how I get on. I'm going to mood read for the last week just to allow myself to pick up what I want, and I'll be back with you soon with another video. Please let me know in the comments down below if there's any videos that you would like to see from me. I know I'm aware that I constantly do sort of reviews and hauls and sort of wrap-ups and TBRs, because I find with a busy lifestyle and a 7-year-old that works for me, but I am happy to sort of take more time and do different books. So please let me know in the comments down below if there's something that you would like to see, and I will endeavour to do that for you. Yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye for now, BookTube.